Hey guys, Steph Culbertson here, and I want to talk a little bit about the barbell back squat, and specifically the journey that my client Robert and I went on from his very first time under a barbell all the way up until about 7 weeks later. So a little background information about Robert is he doesn't come from an athletic background. This is his very first time under a barbell, although we had been working together for several months up until this point. So let's get into it. This video is from Robert's very first squat session under a barbell. So the thing about Robert is that he's a very cerebral lifter. I can already tell he's thinking about everything. I know he's already watched some videos on YouTube of how to squat. Takes a big breath in. And as we can see, the number one thing that jumps out, probably to anybody, is that he's not squatting very low. Not for a lack of effort though. He's trying really hard. Alright, so like I said, it's not like he's not trying to go down as far as he can, because he is. He's trying really hard. You can even see almost like he's kind of free falling down a little bit, trying to get lower. At this point in the session, he's probably already looked back and seen that he's squatting more than a little bit high. So the effort's there. So the first thing that jumped out to me is that Robert is trying really hard to stay upright in this. I think the reason for that is that it takes some time for a lot of us to feel comfortable being pitched forward a little bit more. Not only is there a little mental barrier in being bent over in the bottom of a squat in the beginning for some people, I think that where he puts the bar on his back wasn't quite stable enough, so his body knew that the bar would roll upon him being more bent over. When it comes to the communication part of this journey, first cue I gave Robert was to lead with his chest. Perhaps counterintuitive to what some people might be cued, but again, these things are specific to Robert's scenario. To help him lead with his chest a little bit more, we cued to break at the hips first. Because I was telling him to lean forward more, we had to introduce some things that were a little more anti-flexion so that his upper back wouldn't lose position. The first thing was to move his grip in. That just generally bunches things up a little more in your upper back, creating a better shelf for the bar to sit on. Up next, we cued elbows down, because that is a mechanical anti-flexion technique, if you want to call it that. Then we cued his eyes up, which isn't so mechanical, but sometimes just changing where you look can change the way a lift will feel. I actually had him write these things down on a piece of paper in front of him. Grip, elbows, eyes, hips, meaning set your grip a little more narrow, fix your gaze, meaning pull your elbows down, and break at the hips first. We did all this barefoot, and after working on that for a while, the last thing I really thought that he needed was a pair of squat shoes, at least with the squat style that he was naturally gravitating towards. I had a hunch that squat shoes were going to be highly beneficial for him early on, but I wanted him to get as close as we could get it without that before putting the band-aid that a raised heel can be if you don't know how to squat. From my experience, if you jump right into squat shoes and you don't know how to squat, it kind of just makes it to where you're able to hit depth without really squatting properly. Let's look at the video 7 weeks later. Alright, so I like that Robert really takes his time, makes sure he's all set before he goes. No reason to rush this. Here he goes. Fix his gaze, elbows, brace, hips first. There he goes. Got a couple more reps here. Hips first. These are pod squats. He's really exaggerating that hips first. So we still have some things to clean up, but you can see now we're at a point where it actually looks like he knows how to squat a little bit. In addition to the verbal coaching that was going on, we also had some technique training through programming. And this isn't really anything too complicated. We just had a second squat day that were all pause squats. I think pause squats can teach people a lot of different things. And in Robert's case, what we were after was just him feeling comfortable being in that bent over position in the bottom of the squat. So there you have it. You saw a pretty drastic transformation from week 1 to week 7. But the number one thing to highlight here is that every time he went to squat, he squatted with intent. He went into his garage to train and he thought about the things that we were going over together and he squatted with intent. And that's it. I'm super excited for the next 7 weeks to see where we can progress this thing. But if you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask below and make sure to leave a like and subscribe.